Now I would like to introduce the respected Imam Khalid Latif. Imam Khalid Latif is the University Chaplain of New York University and the Executive Director of the Islamic Center at NYU. He began to initiate his vision for a pluralistic future on and off campus for American Muslims. He was also appointed the first Muslim chaplain at Princeton University in 2006, spending a year commuting between these two excellent institutions. He finally decided to commit full-time to New York University's Islamic Center, where his position was officially institutionalized in the spring of 2007. Under his leadership, the Islamic Center at NYU became the first ever established Muslim student center at an institution of higher education in the United States. Imam Latif's exceptional dedication and ability to cross interfaith and cultural lines on a daily basis brought him recognition throughout the city. He has lectured throughout the United States and in various parts of the world and has been quoted, featured, and appeared in numerous media outlets, including the Huffington Post, BBC, NPR, CNN, the New York Times, Colbert Report, Newsweek, Time Magazine, and GeoTV. Among many awards and distinctions for leadership and community service over the last few years, Imam Latif has been named a global interfaith visionary, as well as one of the 500 most influential Muslims in the world by Georgetown University Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding, and most recently a Millennium Leader for Social Justice. At this moment, I would like to invite Imam Khalid Latif to the podium.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the master of the day of judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the day of judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said that towards the end of his life, the Prophet ﷺ stood in front of 120,000 of his companions. The standing and delivering what we have come to know as his final khutbah, the beloved of Allah ﷺ stood on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, the day of Arafah, addressing these men and women, speaking to them in such a magnificent way that not only did each and every one of them walk away with a message resonating within them, but the likes of you and I, some 14 centuries later, are still able to derive benefit from this man's beautiful words. And as he is now standing about to deliver this message, he poses a question to his companions, pointing in the direction of the city of Mecca. He says, "Ayyu baladin hadha?" That what city is this? And the companions, they know that this is the city of Makkatul Mukarramah. They know that this is the city that is the holiest of cities in the Muslim tradition, but they don't respond. And what our teachers tell us is that out of deference to the Prophet ﷺ, they would believe that if he said from now on it's called something else, they would just take it. He says, is this not the city of Mecca? He then poses another question to them, أَيُّ شَهْرٍ هَذَا, that what month is this? And they know that they are there in the month of Dhul Hijjah, the month in which the Hajj is performed, but again they do not respond. And he says, is this not the month of Dhul Hijjah? And then he says, أَيُّ يَوْمٍ هَذَا, that what day is this? And they know that they are standing on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, they are standing on the day of Arafah, a day that is so auspicious, a day that is so sanctified, that in a hadith the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Al-Hajju Arafah, that the Hajj is Arafah. But again they don't respond. He says, is this not the day of Arafah? And now, having firmly established that they are standing there on that day that is so auspicious, in a month that is so auspicious, in the confines of a city that is so holy and auspicious, the Prophet ﷺ says this, that know this, that more sanctified than this day, in this month, in this place, are the rights that you have over one another. The manner in which you treat each other, the manner in which you uphold your bonds and your relations of kinship, these are more sacred than this day, in this month, in this place. And as we are coming to discuss this idea of social justice, this idea of human rights, and we come to honor the legacy of a man who is most beautiful, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, we want to ask the question how we moved away from honoring the rights of those who are around us to thinking solely and squarely of our own individual rights. That we as a people have turned into individuals who seek to demand justice for ourselves but do not act justly with others. We are people who we will only jump when it comes directly into our homes, into our personal space, within our own individual proximity. Someone dares to take a step, then I will stand. And I will not stand if something is happening to you. I will not shout if something is happening to somebody else. I will not make my voice heard if someone who is not of my country, my locale, my culture, if someone who is not of my skin color, my ethnicity, my creed, if somebody else is having a problem, I won't stand. Where are the people in our community who are building the religious freedom centers like our brother Joshua Stanton? Why is it that there is not a Muslim, and it is not to delegitimize the work that he is doing? May Allah preserve him for standing up for our community. Where are the people in our community who are taking the initiative to say that we will move beyond individual personalities and we will start to institutionalize centers that stand up not just for our rights, but for the rights of people on a whole? We will talk a lot. We will speak a lot. We have a lot of rhetoric, we have a lot of discourse, but we're not making moves. Throughout the Quran, we see this construct where Allah Azza wa Jal, He puts together belief and action. Amanu wa amilu salihat, amanu wa amilu salihat, that you believe and you do deeds that are righteous. And amal, an action that is an amal, is distinct from a fa'al, another kind of action. Because with a fa'al, you don't have an intent. But when you do an amal, you have an intention behind it. And when it's being posed to us in this construct, it's saying that it's not just you're doing a deed, you're doing a good deed. And those deeds have to move beyond the relativeness of the words of goodness. We have to understand, how is it that our being a Muslim is not something that brings benefit to us, but our being a Muslim brings a benefit to the people around us. We are far beyond the ideas and the times where people will look at doctrines of law and theology to measure whether a religion is good or not. They are going to look to the action, the precedent that we set for them to understand whether this is a religion that has any kind of value of goodness to it. So there has to be a movement that comes from that. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there lived a woman by the name of Kahlid bint Makhrama. And Kahlid bint Makhrama, she narrates to us hadith that we find in the Sunan of Abu Dawood, and this specific hadith is found within it a portion, and then in another book of hadith that is called Ibn Sa'ad, we find it in its entirety. Qayla finds herself in a situation where her husband passes away. After her husband passes away, her brother-in-law wants for Qayla's daughters to be married. But neither Qayla nor her daughters want to marry the men that her brother-in-law wants them to. So she takes her youngest child, her youngest daughter, she wraps her up and hides her and sets out to the city of Medina because she knows the Prophet will be there to defend her. As Qayla is going out on this journey, she's going now with her youngest daughter, and as she approaches the city of Medina, she finds that in pursuit of her is her brother-in-law. This man, the hadith tells us that when he gets close to her, he strikes Qayla down to the ground. And then he takes the young girl with him. Qayla now, she's in a daze, she goes into the city, she finds the home of her sister, and then at the time of the Fajr prayer, she goes into the masjid looking to find the Prophet afterwards. And she is in such a daze that we are told that she actually goes and stands in the rows where the men are standing, and a male companion sees her and directs her to where the women are praying. After the prayer is done, Qayla puts down the entire situation to the Prophet ﷺ, and the beloved of Allah ﷺ says that Qayla and her daughters should not be forced to marry against their will. Every faithful Muslim, every believing Muslim should do their part to help them. Muslims should do good deeds and not evil ones. A fatwa coming directly out of the best of creation's mouth. We want to think about what he's really saying. It's not just that you know that it's happening and you condemn it, but if you know that it's happening, you stand up to do whatever you can to stop it. Every faithful Muslim should do their part to help them in this cause. What do we do to help those who are being treated unjustly? What is it that causes within us a desire, a yearning to go out and stand? Think about it for yourself. What are you standing for? What will cause you to get out of your seats and mobilize and go out and engage? Who is it that you will stand up for? Who is it that you will give up things for? Who is it that will be so beloved to you that you will not look at what you will lose, but you will look at what they will gain in the process for you standing up on their behalf? Can you picture and imagine the best of creation, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can you imagine him not standing up for someone who is in need? Can you imagine an individual coming into his community, into his proximity, and the Prophet says that I don't have time for you, that I'm not in tune with where you are coming from, that I won't do everything that I can to help you out? A gift of a goat comes to the home of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet is able to take this as a gift. And we have to understand that in this man's home, we have narrations that say that flames weren't lit for days. He's got nothing to cook on the fire. That we have hadith to tell us that this man would tie rocks to his waist to balance himself out because of the amount of weight he lost just from not eating. Now a gift of a goat comes into his home, and rather than eating it himself, he starts to distribute it amongst his companions who have lesser than he does. And he gives all of it away except its neck. And his wife makes comment on this and says, all of it is gone but its neck. But the Prophet ﷺ does not see the world in this way. And he says, all of it is there but its neck. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what an amazing man this must have been? Can you imagine this man who smiled at every person that he greeted, who never turned his back on anyone that he spoke to? Can you imagine? And today we are in a place where we are not living truly with a God-centric worldview, but everything is based off of an idea of egocentricity. I have to look out for my needs and my wants and my desires. I have taken from this society an idea and a principle of individualism where I'm not going to look out for anybody else other than myself first. And then perhaps if something is left after that, I'm going to go and do something for somebody else. What if this man and his 75 colleagues said that I don't have time to stand up for Muslims? What if this man said that there's people in my own community that I have to stand up for? Where would we be? In New York City, where I live and I work, I saw at that point in time thousands and thousands of people who weren't Muslim come out onto the streets in defense of Islam. But ask yourself seriously a question, ask yourself honestly a question, not in a self-deprecating way, but with an air of positive, productive, and honest critique. Would you go and stand for a Jewish person if they were in need? In the hadith, a funeral procession passes from the Prophet ﷺ. It was of a Jewish man. And when it passes by, the Prophet stands up out of respect. And the companions say, Ya Rasulullah, this is not a Muslim, why are you standing? And he says, should I not have respect for this person? That is the legacy of the man that we claim to follow. That is the legacy of the man that we are standing here today to do something for. How do you add to his name, and how do you take away from it? We want to start looking at those that we are immediately responsible for. In my work, I see a lot of young people, a lot of old people, people coming from all walks of life, and I can tell you, one of the places that we are not healthy, where we are not upholding the rights of those who are around us, are in our homes. The Prophet ﷺ has a companion who sees him, and as he is walking on the street, on the shoulders of the best of creation ﷺ, is his grandson Hassan, may Allah be pleased with him. And as he is carrying him, the Prophet ﷺ is making dua that, Ya Allah, I love him, you love him too. We want to think about the beauty of this hadith. Undoubtedly, we understand in our tradition that not only do we love the Messenger of Allah, but we love the family of the Messenger of Allah. But we want to also understand from the process of socialization that if this companion is narrating this hadith and he is hearing the Prophet say that he loves his grandson, we're pretty sure that his grandson is hearing that his grandfather loves him too. That Al-Hassan is able to hear coming out of the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ that I love you. How often do you tell your children that you love them? How often do you tell your children that you are proud of them? How often do you tell them that it's okay that they made a mistake? How often do you tell them that they can be people who can go out and be like Joshua Stanton, that they can make a difference in the world? Our communities are such that we hug our children on the days of our holidays, but other than that, we don't have a close relationship to them. Our communities are such that our children become scared to come into our homes to tell us that I figured out what I want to do with my life. I want to be an actor, I want to be a professor, I want to be a social justice activist. I'm scared to go into my home and tell my parents something that is celebratory, something that gets me excited and happy. I can't even go home and tell my parents I found someone I want to get married to because I'm scared of their reaction. We're not honoring the rights of those who are in our homes. How are we going to go stand up the rights for people around us? And it's not what the Prophet did. An amazing man. An amazing, amazing individual. And all of it becomes relevant. All of it becomes motivational. We're not breeding the leaders that this generation has the potential of breeding because the sense of aspiration or the inspiration towards that aspiration has been removed from this generation. They're scared to go out and take chances. We don't know how to get back up on our feet after we have fallen because the only time we say anything to the people who are around us is when they screw up. You made a mistake. You did something wrong. You're terrible. How could you make this decision? How could you go and do this? This is not from amongst the character that is prophetic in nature. You want a starting point? You want to see really where things are for you? Take an honest look at yourself and see what you are doing for those who are in your immediate responsibility. How are you empowering them to go out and be the movers, the changers, the shakers of this world? The ones who are not afraid to reach their potential. It's something that we have to think about. Last night we got news of an Iraqi Muslim woman in California who was beaten to death. May Allah have mercy upon her. This woman, a note was found next to her that said, "Go back to your country." Does it rile you up? Do you get angry and frustrated? Does it bother you? How is it that something like that could happen in our society, in our country? How could somebody do something like that to another human being, another individual? How could somebody do that to one of our women? Sometime before that, a young African-American boy by the name of Trayvon Martin was killed. If our hearts didn't jump the same way for him as they did when we found out about our sister yesterday, we have a problem. If it didn't instill within us a sense of urgency to stand and scream for the sake of that young man who was shot down, then we have a problem. Do you even know who he is? I would hope so. The Prophet ﷺ was not a man who was conditional in his support of the people around him. We have a hadith that sets a premise that says that you will not enter paradise until you believe, and you will not believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And many of the explanations that are given of this hadith say that the word brother is not in reference to your brother in Islam, but it's in reference to the children of Adam, the son of Adam. It is in reference to your brother in humanity. You can't be in tune with what people need if you're not talking to people. You can't be in a place where you know what kind of things out there you have to stand up for if you're not really talking to people who are different from you. In the next year alone, 1 to 2 million children will enter into prostitution. Can you imagine? We're not even talking about teens or adults, we're talking about children. Can you imagine? There are people in this world right now who have to walk miles and miles to find water to drink, and when they consume that water, it is so polluted, it's probably causing more damage to their body than had they not drank it. There are mothers in this world right now who have so little food, they have to decide which one of their children they will feed and which one they will essentially watch starve to death. We don't have anything to stand up for. We are honoring the legacy of the best of creation. We only stand when it's one of our own that have a problem. Would you really stand up if there was a synagogue that was being closed down? Think about it and be honest with yourself. We have great potential in our communities. We have amazing talent in our communities. We have so many resources in our communities. But right now, our communities are made up of too many individuals. We're thinking about, how do I stand up for myself versus how do I stand up for the collective? How do I use my talents, my skills, my resources to bring benefit to the people who are around me? Think about it for a second. In the last day of your life, what have you done for anyone else? In the last week of your life, the last month of your life, the last year of your life, what have you done for anybody? What have you done purely for the sake of someone who is other than yourself? What have you done? And again, it's not meant to be self-deprecating, but something where reality needs to slap us in the face. This deen, this religion, is not about the chasing of utopian-esque ideals. It's not about, let me sit and think about things only solely for myself. Islam is about reality. Islam is about knowing how to deal with reality. And it's about knowing not how to only deal with your own reality, but knowing how to deal with the realities of all those who are around you. So all of us need to start stepping up to the plate. We all have something to offer. We all have something to give back. And now is the most important time to do it, not because of the urgency of the time, but why would you wait for tomorrow? Why would you wait till next week? Why would you wait till the month after? What are you really waiting for? I can tell you, if you are a social justice activist, like my good friend and brother here, it's not a very thankful job. But your motivation is not meant to be that I'm getting the accolades and the appreciation and gratitude. You're doing it for other reasons. The top of which is that it's the right thing to do. If I can really be able to justify for myself that my passivity somehow is something that's okay, I'm really screwed up. Where are the Muslim hospitals, the Muslim free clinics? Where are the Muslim domestic violence shelters? Where are the ones that are orphanages? Where are any of these things? Muslim advocates that spoke here in the first part of this program is an amazing institution. Why don't we have more things like that? How does your being a Muslim bring benefit not to you, but how does your being a Muslim bring benefit to the society around you? It's time to move beyond ideas of race and ethnicity and socioeconomic reality and really go out and engage. If we claim to follow the legacy of this man, then we have to uphold it, not when it's convenient, not when it's something that we are in agreement with or we find some kind of accord with, but we have to appreciate and embrace it for what it was. And if we truly believe that he is meant to be someone for all of humanity, and we embrace this idea of the universality of this tradition and faith, it's time for us to start doing things for people who are different from us. Not just talking about it, but actually doing it. I can tell you that each one of you has something to offer. But until you are willing to give it back, the rest of us will not be able to benefit from the blessings that are uniquely within each of you. Take a minute to reflect and think about what it is that you are doing, what you have the potential to do, and then go full force and give what you can. Because we need all of you to be able to start really making a difference. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and protect us. May He bless us with knowledge that benefits us. May He bless us with the tawfiq to understand and implement that knowledge into our daily lives. And may He guide and bless us all. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa billahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala.